Hello guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending from wherever you are streaming from. This will be our first live on this channel and we are very grateful to you guys for making this possible. So in today's live, we'll be showing a practical way of installing all the solar components on your board in a very neat way, such that you can do it professionally yourself. We have all the materials available. Please click the like button, share and subscribe. Let's dive into the video. Setup table. We have all our materials on the left and then we have our tools for the installation on the right. As you can see here, we have an MBF board. This is a marble tiles board, but it's a wooden board, of which we are going to place all our components like our inverter, charge controller and the lights. So here we have our trunking. This is our trunking for making connections of like our wiring and all that. Everything is going to be concealed inside the trunking. Here we have our cable. We have two types of cable. This is a DC cable and this is an electrical cable. They are of different diameters depending on what connections you want to make. Now here we have our inverter. I've talked about this inverter in our previous video. If you haven't watched the video, go back to our channel and watch the video about this inverter. This is a 1000 watt inverter with charger and it also has display. You can charge your battery as well. Here we have our solar charge controller. This is a 40 amp solar charge controller. Here we have our batteries and our sockets. You would know the usefulness of this in a minute. By the time we start doing the connection, you understand why we have this here. Here we have our plug. This is going to serve as the output that is going to power the building from the inverter. And here we have our 63 amps changeover. So let's begin the wiring connections. So we begin by cutting our trunking to the perfect size. So we've cut the trunking into sizes. Now we begin to screw in the trunking using our screws and our screwdriver. Cutting our trunking into sizes. This is the exact dimension we are going to follow on the board. So we begin to screw in our trunking with our screw and then screwdriver. Now as you can see, we are done screwing the trunking. That's been neatly done. So the next step is to place in the components individually. So finally we've placed in the individual components. We have here our charge controller. None of the component has been screwed in yet. We just placed them for you to see the method of arrangement of each of those components. We have our changeover here. We have our inverter. And then we have our sockets. So we are going to screw in each of these individual components now and we'll move to the next step. So all the components have been completely screwed in. Our charge controller, inverter, and then our sockets. Everything has been screwed in. Now the next step we're going to do now is we begin to do our wiring. So like I said earlier in the earlier part of this video, all the wire and cables are going to run through this trunking, joining each of these individual components together. So we'll begin by telling you function of each of those components and how we're going to wire them. Now the changeover here is meant for changing over between solar charging and NEPA or generator charging. Okay,
So the top section part of this changeover is going to be connected to solar charging, while the bottom part of this changeover is going to be connected to either NEPA or generator charging. Now the output, the center output, is going to be connected to the charge controller, and a part of it is also going to be connected to the socket. So this socket is going to be supplying the inverter with electricity for it to charge the battery. So now the second component is your solar charge controller. So this solar charge controller has 6 ports, and I'm going to explain them. Now the first 2 ports is input from the solar panel. So we have positive. You can look at it very well. We have, I don't know if you can see this, we have positive and we have negative. We also have icon for solar panel here. Now the second 2 port is positive and negative as well. This is going to be going to the top of the battery. Now the last 2 ports, connection ports, also have positive and negative as well. You can see there's a light bulb icon here which serves as load, but for this particular connection we are not going to be using these last 2. We are using the first 2 and the second 2 connection ports. So panel comes in here, battery is being connected here. Now as for the inverter with charger, we also have 2 connection ports. We have the positive and the negative as well, which is going to be going to the battery as well. Now, like I said earlier, for the socket is going to supply the inverter with electricity, either NEPA or GEN. So this one is going to be connected to the bottom part of this changeover. So let's move to the next step by connecting our wiring connections. So the first connection to the solar panel has been done. Now this is the solar charge controller. As we said earlier, this is the connection to the solar panel. Now the brown cable is positive, the blue cable is negative. Now this cable runs through and out of the trunking. So this is the negative, this is the positive. First leg of the negative is connected to one port of the changeover. Now the output of this leg comes out from here. So the negative comes out from here. So once you switch down the changeover like this, it closes the connection. It allows current to flow from the solar panel, cable coming from the solar panel. It allows the current to flow into the charge controller. But once you open this changeover, it opens the connection coming from the solar panel to the solar charge controller. So that's the way that works. So we'll move to the next step of how we are going to connect our NEPA or GEN charging to our sockets down here. Now we've completed the connection to the socket. These are the 2 cables that is going to be connected to either generator or NEPA, which is our grid system here in Nigeria. Now these are the 2 cables. Now as you can see, these are the 2 cables that is going to be connected to either your power generator or your grid. Now one leg of the cable coming from the grid is going to be connected to the other leg of the changeover. Now one leg of this cable is connected here. Now the output comes out from here, then comes out from here all the way down to the socket. So now if you move the changeover down in this manner, it means you've disconnected the solar connection and you've engaged the grid connection to the socket. Now this socket is what's going to provide electricity to the inverter, for the inverter to be able to charge the battery. Now the inverter has a plug that we are going to connect here. We'll show that in other part of the video. we are going to connect this one. We are going to connect it here to the socket, so that when we move down the changeover, the inverter begins to charge the battery. So we'll move to the next connection. The next connection here, this is the battery terminal where we are going to connect this charge controller to the battery. So we're going to move to the to this connection here. So now we are done with the connection to the battery terminals. Like I showed you earlier, these are the this is the positive terminal and this is the negative terminal, and you can see the icon. You can see the battery icon here. So these two terminals are going to the positive and negative terminals of the battery. Now we've completed that connection. Now here we also connect the inverter, the positive terminal of the inverter, to the positive leg of the cable coming from the charge controller as well. We did the same one for the negative as well. We connected the negative terminal of the inverter to the negative terminal of the charge controller. So both positive and negative of the charge controller and the inverter will go down to the battery. Now this is the positive leg that is going to be connected to the terminal of the battery, while the positive leg here, this is the negative leg, while the positive leg of the terminal is connected here. So you would see why we did this in a bit. So we'll move to the next connection, which is to complete the trunking installation by putting in the lead. We have a lead here that is going to cover all these wiring connections, and that's the more reason why we use the trunking in the first place, to make the work very, very neat and tidied up. Arrived at the last but not the least step. So here are the trunking cover that we're going to use to tidy up our connections. As you can see, we've also connected the cable coming from the inverter for grid or NEPA charging. For grid, NEPA or gen charging, we've connected it to the socket that is going to supply the grid or generator electricity. Now we've connected that to the socket. Now we'll begin to finalize the whole installation. Yeah, so we've arrived at the final stage of the prefabricated solar components installation. As you can see, the panel is looking very, very neat and tidied. All our components have been connected together. Our charge controller, inverter, socket and changeover, everything has been connected together. Now down here we have our negative connection to the battery of the terminals, and we have our positive connection to the positive terminal of the battery. So connecting both the positive and negative to the battery lights up all of these components that we've done here. So this panel is going to be installed against the wall. So we're gonna test the panel in a bit. Now, like I said earlier, we have our plug. This is a 3-pin plug. This plug is what's going to supply our building or our space with electricity. So now this plug is going to the output of this inverter here. It can either stay here or here. The output of the inverter has a dual port, so we can connect it anywhere we like. So yeah, let's test out the panel.
The final completed installation of the solar components. Now we just want to test all the connections we did on the components board to see if everything is working as planned. So here we have a dry cell battery. So now you can see the reason why I made this terminal to be negative while this terminal to be positive. The positive negative terminal is on the left side of the battery, while the positive terminal is on the right side of the battery. Okay, so now this negative terminal of our components board is going to be connected to the negative terminal of the battery. So you would want to screw this down to avoid heating up. Also, the positive terminal of the components board will be connected to the positive terminal of the battery as well. In this case, you might want to be very careful due to spark when connecting this cable to the battery, and that is usually caused by capacitors from the inverter. Now, as you can see, both the inverter and the charge controller has been lit up. Now, the charge controller is up and running at the moment. The inverter is also up and running at the moment, and as you can see, the inverter is producing an output. It seems like there's a flicker on the indicator light of the plug. That's due to the camera. So now what we did is we've connected the inverter, we've connected a socket, an extension socket, to the inverter to see what it can power. Now we connected our television and fan to this socket. Now it's time for testing. As you can see, the television is up and running at the moment. Now, let's put on our fan as well. As you can see, the fan is also working as well. So we finally arrived at the completion of our solar components installation to the panel. As you can see, it is looking very neat and well put in place. So you can do it yourself at home. So thanks for watching. Click the like button, share and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. TechBiz Solar.